Kapa Hawaiian FM 100.3, 99.1 online at kaparadio.com. Here for Pacific Media Group and all of our sister stations, including BigIslandNow.com. Today we're speaking with another one of our friends with Ho'ola Nā Pua as we continue with this Talk Story series. With us today is Anastasia Ayers, our Direct Service Program Manager right here on Hawai'i Island. I'm really excited to talk to you today with the insight that you have regarding our personal island right here in Hawaii. And so today we're going to just have a kind of talk story session and see how we can uplift our community with this education, Anastasia.
Okay.
Tell us about how sex trafficking is showing up right here on Hawaii Island.
So for the most part, for the longest, actually in the beginning of our work, there was no data for us to fall back on, unfortunately, because it wasn't something that was really being looked at. So thankfully, Arizona State University did a study for sex trafficking here in Hawaii, and the most recent, the most recent part that came out in January of this year, shares information that was provided by 20 survivors here on Hawaii Island. And those 20 survivors that were surveyed through Child and Family Services and ASU's YES survey, the age range from those people who shared their information said that they were first trafficked from age 4 to age 28. So that just gives you the kind of age timeline, age 4 to age 28, with the median age being 19.2 years old. Of those 20 survivors, 6 of them, which is 30%, were children when they were first sex trafficked. So it's happening here. It doesn't necessarily happen how people think it's happening because it's someone that's familiar with these children. It's not a stranger danger situation for the most part. So of the same 20 individuals that were surveyed and trafficked as children, the average age for Hawaii Island is 8.8 years old for when they were first trafficked. I have a 7-year-old son, so that scares me. That number scares me, knowing that just shy of a year, my son is at that age, that age of risk. It's very scary.
Right. Now, you know, the age thing kind of freaks us out. That's here on Hawaii Island. I mean, that's crazy. What age are children being trafficked as far as most recently? I mean, because I know this is just in January, you said?
Yes, this came out in January. The part 3 of this survey came out in January.
So how does your program address this particular problem with these children?
So for the most part, Ho'ola Nā Pua, what we try to amplify is education and advocacy. And the education part is both for children as well as any adults, any service providers, school agencies, service providers, because we feel the education, when people talk about it and know more about it, that helps for the prevention part about it. And unfortunately, for the longest time, our culture, our local culture, not necessarily Hawaiian culture, our local culture is, if we don't talk about it, it's not happening. It's been like that for generations, many generations. And this doesn't only go for sex trafficking, this goes for all forms of abuse. A lot of it has been hush hush, dust under the rug, don't talk about it, don't shame the family. And that's kind of the wall that we have to push down and get past and have those conversations, because it's been happening. It's been happening just in different forms, and people kind of gave it different titles.
Right. I was speaking with the ladies last week, and we were talking about the vocabulary that's being used, different back when we were kids to what you're doing today.
You know, it's still happening today. A lot of things get minimized to, oh, it was a sex assault with drugs involved. But you got to dig a little bit deeper than the surface of it. It's like, okay, it was a sex assault with drugs involved, but it involved a minor where there was an adult who had control over the situation. So there's more to that story. So it's us having to push past what's comfortable, because people are comfortable with what they're familiar with. Mm-hmm. So now let's familiarize this conversation so people are even more comfortable to either come out and talk about it and get the help they need. And also the main thing is to get the proper prosecutions for the people who are doing this.
And you folks are working hand in hand with those people, that I know. So Anastasia, what are some of the common behaviors that someone may show that they need help?
So I sat back and I really thought about it on how I wanted to share. And the thing is you gotta know the youth, you gotta know the person. What's their baseline? What's their usual? Are they normally a happy-go-lucky? Are they normally very outgoing? Are they the jokester of the family? Do they often, crack the jokes and center of attention when the ohana is gathering? Even how they are with their friends, who they're friends with. If you start to see those little changes that they're not being who you normally and usually are used to seeing them, red flag. Okay, what's happening? Something's happening. And all of this does not necessarily tie into sex trafficking. This ties into a lot of things in general. It's important to have a check-in, even when it's at the beginning. Like at the beginning of, okay, I'm talking to this older guy, it's starting to feel uncomfortable, and then you start seeing these changes in behavior. So if someone goes from being outgoing to a little bit more introverted, red flag. If you're cakey, quickly puts down the phone or shuts off their screen, puts it down when you walk in the room, or close the laptop or the iPad, the tablet. There's so many different forms of electronics nowadays. Why? How come? What are they hiding? Be nosy. You gotta be nosy nowadays, because there's so many different platforms that children can be reached on that is important for us to know. So why are they hiding? How come they're hiding? You gotta question why. And then also if there's changes in their peer group, if they're best friend from kindergarten and then all of a sudden they're not hanging out with each other, why? Did best friend notice something and question something and they weren't ready to address it, so it was easier to push them away so that they don't have to say what's happening? Those are just some of the first, I would say, starter examples of red flag behaviors. Because one thing for sure with children is that they don't know how to come out directly and say, something isn't right, I need help. Even adults don't know how to do that. Like adults they must say something isn't right, I need help. Like even us as adults don't do that. But just imagine someone who's still trying to figure themselves out. They don't have the capability of doing that. So we have to remember that our keiki speak to their behaviors. So it's important to pay attention to their behaviors.
Now, how do you think we can, now you talk about, our local families, our local communities, and it's just something that we just don't talk about. How can we, kako, prevent this? Is there even an answer?
Well, like I said, how before it was hush hush, and it was, if we don't talk about it, it's not happening. Thankfully, the community has been activated with this topic, with this situation. So it has become something that has been talked about most recently, at least from the month of May till like now. So it has been something, I apologize, that's my son sneezing in the background. Talking about it, making it a familiar conversation, I think is the number one thing we can do for prevention. Because if it's something that we don't talk about and we're not familiarizing our ohana, even under our own roof, if that conversation is not something familiar, then your keiki is not gonna know that it's something wrong when it's happening.
Yeah.
They're not gonna be able to identify that, hey, this isn't right, maybe I should go talk to somebody. No gotta be mom, dad, can be auntie, uncle, older cousin, somebody you're comfortable with, is the number one key to prevention. So for us, it's like, be involved. And as hard as it is today with all the extra kuleana we have on our shoulders, it's important to still be like, hey, I gotta check in. Like, I should go sit down, even if it's 10 minutes, talk story, open platform, open, like, just open, hey, how you doing? What's going on? It's important to have these open conversations with our keiki nowadays, be it even if you don't want your own kids, but you get plenty nieces and nephews and you always around your nieces and nephews. Keep that open conversation with them. Check in, see what's going on, especially now with COVID and people being separated from their social groups and they're going online for social interaction. It's important for us to check in, and checking in, having a conversation is not necessarily knowing every detail of what's happening in their life and what's going on, but just knowing that they can talk to you is key. It's key, period.
Yeah. Now, what about our Hawai'i Island community? Now we have a special Hawai'i Island community. How do we get our community to help?
So one thing that is awesome about Big Island is Big Island loves to kokua. Big Island loves to kapo'o situations when things are happening and events and stuff like that. And it's very important. Find something you're comfortable with. If you have the time and on in your regular daily life, go and volunteer with service providers that provide services for our youth. We are always open and accepting of volunteers because that's essential for us to run our programs. And one of our biggest launches that we did this year is our Starfish Mentoring Program here on Hawai'i Island. We already have it up and running successfully with Hope and Healing for about 3 to 4 years on Oahu. And we want to mimic the exact same service here on Hawai'i Island, and that's our Starfish Mentoring. So our mentors are volunteers, and the essential part of the mentor being a volunteer is you are able to establish a better connection when the youth knows that you're doing this because you want to do it. Mm-hmm. It's not another job. You're not being paid. You're not here because you have to be. You're here because you want to be. Okay, wait, whoa. Like that's a totally different tone, a totally different connection. And having that meaningful adult in their life, someone that, even if it's for that 1 to 2 hours that they're spending with their mentor, that they get to exit or step away from their norm, go be a little bit distant and different, like go try new things, and have that person establish that relationship with that person to know, like, if something's really going wrong and I don't have that person, that key person I can talk to in my own personal life, I'll have this mentor that I know I can express my feelings to. And at least that would be one outlet prior to making the bad choice.
Right, right.
I mean, I'm not saying they all make bad choices, but it's just an idea of the importance of having that positive and meaningful adult, that mentor in their life, is that one extra person to help.
You know, I was thinking as we're talking this morning, Anastasia, you know, when do you get the call? Like in our system of our world, there's a system. And yeah. So how does a child and or a person come forward? Like how do you get in touch? Like how does that happen? Because this is not a common talked about situation.
Oh yes, no, you're not gonna have someone just be like, oh hey, I have things to share. Right. It's gonna be more than one occurrence. It's gonna take more than 5 times for someone to come out and say, hey, this is happening to me. Majority of the time, it's service providers that they come into contact with, and then they share a little bit piece, and they kind of wait for the reaction to see what's going to happen, or if this person can actually help me. And for the safety of themselves, they'll gauge the safetiness of that, you know, like, okay, I shared a little bit about myself, I don't feel too safe, okay, I'm gonna go back and close. So it takes more than one interaction for someone to actually come out and say something is happening. So when you actually do get a disclosure, like, you have to realize you're probably maybe the 10th, maybe the 20th person that they're reaching out to. And if you got the actual disclosure, there's a reason for it. They trust you, they see something in you, they know that you can help them. And that is you can't, it is priceless, actually. Honestly, it's priceless. If someone will trust their vulnerability and their hurt, to share their hurt with you, it's a big thing, because that means there's a whole lot of variables in see, and they're ready to open. So when I get the call, so for the most part, I am responsible with continuing to run our direct services here on Hawai'i Island for our programs with Nā Pua. And so we work with youth mostly in residential facilities, like residential. So if you think New Challenge is one of the programs that we go in and we work with the cadets. So that's just an example of the group setting for our Hopi group services. So we utilize that time and that pocket of opportunity to work with these youth because there's system involved. And that's one of the vulnerabilities of being trafficked. Not necessarily saying all kids in the system are going to get trafficked. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is they have all the same pukas, the vulnerabilities that someone who wants to traffic them will recognize and try to fill those pukas and use that to lure them in.
Right.
So we work with these youth for the direct services one-on-one because we want to instill with them the conversation, that safe space to talk about it. It's also a safe place for disclosure, because sometimes in our groups, they feel comfortable enough, like, okay, I've seen Auntie like 20 times consistently, I'm gonna say something now. Because we consistently go into the facilities every week. So we become a familiar face. And if you know Youth Challenge, they're there from start to graduation. Mm-hmm. So it's not a program where there's fluctuation of youth coming in and out. So they become familiar with you, and then they'll disclose with you because we're establishing rapport with every little group we do with them. So normally, we get those, that's initially how we get information, is when we get those disclosures in our groups. But if not, it's usually coming from our partnerships with law enforcement. They'll give us a call and they'll say, hey, got this girl we're working with, we got this boy we're working with, we wanted to know if you guys could link up with them and provide some services and some support. Okay, yes, of course, we're there.
Awesome. Now, what if, our local schools, when I was talking to Jessica last week, we were talking about Nā Pua providing this educational piece, like what you're talking about. If I'm a teacher, if I'm a principal, or I'm running a halau, if you will.
Yes.
You folks would come and talk story and share a little bit about.
Yes, we will. Okay, yeah, well, I mean, it looks a little different nowadays because COVID. A lot of it was through Zoom, right. But yes, we do. We provide education presentations on many different levels, and we have different presentations to accommodate what crowd we're addressing. Like if it's professionals, then it's at the more elevated level where we talk deep about things. And then of course, if it's with youth, then it's more at the level of that they can understand. Right. It's information that's still safe for them to absorb. Right. And giving them that time to have the conversation or ask us questions so we can help give you something that can be a tool for you in the future. Or even, honestly, a lot of times when we do presentations with youth, they know more than we think. They know more than we think. They've been exposed to more than we think. And they have a friend that has a similar situation that we're talking about. And they'll ask us like, hey, Auntie, I have a friend that had an older boyfriend. And yeah, I was kind of curious and made me think about it. Okay, yes, let's talk about this. Let's talk about it. That's how it starts. Normally, if you have the opportunity to read the study from ASU, majority of the traffickers were boyfriends. Wow. They start as boyfriends. So they start off and they instill the trust. They are the older boyfriend. They have the extra things for them. And so it's not somebody you would expect to hurt you. Yeah. So yes, we would. And we've gone to churches and done presentations. I've gone to little nonprofits like that had employees of maybe 5 people, but they were interested in knowing more. We go. We go.
Yes. Now, okay. So I just wanted to put this out there. Now, for more information, we've been talking about this, and this is, again, Anastasia, just a part of our series that we're doing with Ho'ola Nā Pua. I wanted to tell our listeners, ho'olanapua.org, and I'm just going to spell that HOOLANAP, as in Paul, UA.org. Now, there's a national hotline, and I'm going to share this, and this is going to actually be in the video as well, on the bottom of this link. The national hotline, if you are listening and you need kokua, 888-373-7888. And something that I'm really exceptionally excited about is that we have a Ho'ola Nā Pua hotline, 24/7. We can call anytime. This is crazy awesome, because there's a resource that we can just right there on our phone. And that number is 808-435-9555. That's 435-9555. And I'm going to put that in the link right below here, so that our listeners and those of you that are watching via social media will be able to just put that number in your phone, take a picture of it, click on the link for Ho'ola Nā Pua to get more information. But I also want to say, though, like you talked about, if you are a group or you are a part of a group, whether it be church or hula or extracurricular activities, and you want more information or you want to educate your group, your community, your immediate community, I just want to encourage everyone to get more education and to contact you, Anastasia, contact our friends at Ho'ola Nā Pua to have these heart-to-heart conversations.
May I also add, if you are interested in becoming a volunteer with us, when you do go to ho'olanapua.org, on the top, there's the menu items for you to select. It's under Take Action. And you would go scroll down to volunteer and click that, and it has an online form for you to start to fill out. And that's how it starts.
I love it. I love it. Anastasia, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for making time to speak with us today. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Again, we're going to be speaking with Ho'ola Nā Pua and many of your partners in the upcoming weeks. Check it out at ho'olanapua.org. Anastasia, thank you again. Mahalo nui.
Mahalo. Have a good day.